Hello and welcome to the Red Room. Today is Saturday again and we are doing another promo because someone almost finished yet another book. So today we are going to talk about Wretched Époque.
Wretched Époque. I have already done the cover. So you probably...
It takes drugs. No, it doesn't. So what is Wretched Époque? It's a bit of a Frankenstein monster.
Yes, it was, initially it was supposed to be a punk setting. It was supposed to be called Nouveau Punk, Chronicles of the Belle Époque. But since things were delayed and then Wretched came, and we decided that
someone was asking in the Facebook group, why don't you do something after the Wretched Country came out? Someone was asking, oh, aren't you planning to do something with Cthulhu?
Yeah, Lovecraftian.
Yes.
This probably will not have Cthulhu himself.
But it does have, since the beginning it did have some Lovecraftian inspiration.
Yes. So let's talk a bit about Wretched Époque, which is the same thing as Nouveau Punk because the setting was already made. So I just made some adjustments and rules, of course. So this is set in the Belle Époque, obviously. That's what gave it the name. It starts late 19th century, 1880s, 1890s, and it ends with First World War, 1914. So it's a big chunk of time where several things happen, many things happen, a lot of things happen. And it's the perfect time to set something like this that deals with supernatural, paranormal, pseudosciences, adventure in general,
in a bit of political
yes,
conspirations.
Also. Yeah, conspiracies, yes.
Conspiracies, yes.
Secret societies, sects, and cults, and all that. So there's everything, a bit of everything.
And it's also the time when the modern detective and the modern police techniques starting to be invented.
And that's why we set that we set this in Paris because that's where modern investigation, criminal investigation started. So and also because one of the things that's referenced here is Adéle Blanc-Sec from Tavi.
Let me show another one.
This is a European comic, obviously. It's set in the Belle Époque. The protagonist is Adéle Blanc-Sec.
Not the pterodactyl.
Yeah, the pterodactyl is just a monster. This woman here, she's a writer. She writes.
She's a journalist.
Yes, she's a writer, journalist. She writes books about
adventures and cults and
people who died and the crimes and all that. So basically, she's an investigative reporter of the 19th century. And she, while she's investigating the stories, she gets involved with lots of things that are happening in Paris at the time, namely several mad scientists dealing with weird science. They are recreating extinct species like the pterodactyl, and there's another book about a Neanderthal or a lycanthrope.
It's here, we can show the, it's in the back.
Yes.
So it's the third one.
There's also a mummy and
a lot of stuff.
This is Pazuzu. So this is a comic about adventures and supernatural, not quite, but kind of. Especially more than supernatural, it's more paranormal and pseudoscience, weird science.
Yes.
This is one of the things that.
And there's also a movie.
Yeah,
I don't like it very much, but yeah,
it's not
that bad. But
not really bad. It's well, it's very light-hearted, so not quite the same.
Yes.
The comics are also light-hearted, but not as much as the movie. The movie sometimes gets juvenile.
Yes, it's too juvenile.
So this is one of the major references. The other one is this book by Umberto Eco, The Prague Cemetery. This is very interesting. No, it's a big book about conspiracies, and the protagonist of this book is a very wretched character, Simone Simonini. Simone Simonini is a guy who is a what's his profession? He's a lawyer.
Yes.
Not a lawyer. The other thing. It's not a barrister, no, not a lawyer.
Notario.
Yeah, something like that.
I don't
Well,
know
anyway.
how to call that in,
yeah, he does contracts.
Scriptures and contracts. Yes.
So, but he's mainly a forger, and he forges several documents, several important documents. Among those, the protocols of the Elders of Zion.
If you are familiar with the old conspiracy theories, you've heard about that one.
Yeah, basically they are all here, and most of them is the one who started. Very interesting, especially for people like this other book, Foucault's Panel. This is basically the guy here, Simonini, could be a character here. Well, not a live character, but one of the people they reference.
Foucault's Pendulum is where the weird cults and the secret societies come from. The political comes from the private secretary.
I think they also mentioned that.
Yes, they mentioned.
There's several things that are common to books. Anyway, they were very interesting, and well, this one is set in the 60s and then the 90s, but this one is set in Paris during the Belle Époque. The late 19th century, not exactly the beginning of the 20th, but well, anyway, it's the same period. Okay, so these were the first things that came to mind because I'm a fan of both things, and then there are obviously other things. Arsène Lupin, it's obvious. Auguste, the character from Poe. Chevalier Auguste something.
Yeah, we just saw the movie the other day and I don't remember.
So Dupin. Is Dupin?
Dupin and Lupin, exactly.
So yeah, that's it. Not Holmes. I wouldn't use that one here. It's too British.
Yes, doesn't. Yeah, we don't want another reason to have it.
He's mentioned, of course.
Yes, but another reason to have it in France is so to get away from everything that is done, because normally most things happen in England.
For example, there are obviously things for Call of Cthulhu that are set in the late 19th century, but it's set in English in England, and well, you know, it's just always the same thing. The fog of London and all that. So Paris.
We have the fog of Paris.
À Paris, il n'y a pas de fog. More.
Okay, so we have Jules Verne, that is the inventor of science fiction and the father of pulp.
Jules Verne, obviously, and there are references to other writers, of course, obviously, and also to real things. There's one thing that while I was writing this, that I knew about it, but I didn't know how important it was at the time, and now it turned into a very big influence in this game. It's a story. If you have seen Polanski's latest movie J'accuse, you know about the story of the affair Dreyfus. The affair Dreyfus is basically mentioned everywhere when you are researching things about this period, especially in France, obviously. I'm not going to go into that, but it's a conspiracy about a guy who was framed because he was Jewish, and well, there's a lot of things about. He was a military man. Okay, he was arrested and all that. And
so
eventually,
Zola got involved in that.
So, if you want to know the story, you should see Polanski's movie because it's a great film, and it's a recent movie also. It's called J'accuse. I'm not sure if it's called J'accuse in English also. Probably not. I don't know. I can't remember. Anyway, and this leads us to another thing, which turned out to be also an influence. A very good TV show, a French one, called Paris 1900.
Yeah, we discovered it when you were doing almost finished with it.
Yeah, but then I added some things.
Because this all makes sense.
It all makes sense.
Very good TV show, really.
And it's not about the story of Dreyfus, but
it happened after.
It mentions a lot of the Dreyfus affair, but it's about crimes and about the Apache which is another thing that is mentioned in this
That you
game.
discovered while you were doing
Yeah.
the research.
Well,
I actually did research this time.
I did something. Yeah. I knew about those types, those character types, but I didn't know the other name. So in late 19th century, namely in the Belle Époque, in Paris, there were several gangs. They had some strangeness about them. They dressed.
They were exotic.
Yeah, they were kind of exotic. They were dressed in something like happened after in the US. The gangs had their own styles and tattoos, different tattoos, and even haircuts and beards. Some of them had beards and or mustaches. But each gang had their own dress code. So this was added because it was supposed to be a punk game, and this was very punk. It's basically the same as Cyberpunk, but in the 19th century. But I overly kept it because it's also wretched. So they are.
And they were called Apaches.
Yeah, they are called
That's
Apaches.
also really cool.
Kind of stupid, but
yeah,
it was a French newspaperman who wrote.
Probably because they were savages.
Yeah, he wrote one or two articles about. I think all the story of the Apache were kind of turned
into a romance almost in the
almost
tabloids.
because
Yes.
yeah, the tabloids of the time, which weren't tabloids, probably were magazines, they were enjoying that kind of interesting stories, and they turned probably more colorful than they should have been. But anyway, they were kind of colorful because you can research pictures of those guys, real pictures, and they are interesting. There's also a movie you could see, I'm not Casque d'Or, about a story of a hooker who was called Casque d'Or, and her two boyfriends. I'm not sure if they were at the same time, but she was being. There are two guys that were in love with her, and it's a story about that. And they were all Apaches.
Story. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
it's based on a real story.
She wrote it. But someone wrote for her the story of her life.
Yeah, probably she didn't. She
couldn't write. But someone wrote. Probably not a novel, but feuilleton or something like that. And it was turned into a movie in the 60s. So this is also interesting because it explores the criminal side of Paris in the Belle Époque. And if you want to play wretched characters and you don't want to play the usual type of characters in the 19th century
you don't want
game,
to play the scientist or the adventure
or
the dilettante.
Or the dilettante, you can play an actual wretch, a criminal from a gang. And you could even, this is an interesting part, you could even put a female character there without being a rich woman. So
yeah, she can be
you
a
can
hooker.
play a hooker, yes. Who takes drugs, probably.
Well, she can also be a thief. She doesn't have
to be not all of those girls were hookers. Well, probably they were all hookers, but they weren't prostituting all the time.
They multi-classed.
Yeah, they multi-classed, and they had knives also. I think they were supposed to be savage also, not just the guys.
Exactly.
So they had fights also.
They had fights among themselves. There was another, right, a hooker that killed another hooker.
Yeah, there were stories about those things, yes. And they probably also splashed the acid on people. Yes. I think that's kind of a rumor also, but anyway. This is a game, so you can
splash acid on people.
So these are all things that can be played.
Not in real life.
No.
Yeah,
well,
nice
you can,
people.
but it's not nice.
We're not encouraging to do it. Just the disclaimer.
So these are all okay. Now we spoke too much, probably,
yes.
But these are all things that you can do in this game. It's not going to be a 400 pages game. I just mentioned these subjects briefly, and then, as we are doing with the Wretched Bastards, if people are interested in this subject or that subject, or they prefer this one or that one, we'll do something more about it, some source books or scenarios, or both.
Probably scenarios for sure.
Yeah, scenarios.
Some source books are already being.
Yeah, Joe Coombs is already writing stuff. I think he wrote probably. I haven't read it yet because I'm doing the editing, and now I'm going to start the layout for this one. I'm certainly forgetting something because there's quite a lot of things going on here. Well, there are also, I mentioned that, and I forgot to add that mad scientists are also here
Mhm.
an important part of this. So recreating extinct species is an important thing here. That you might, and also kind of a Frankenstein kind
yes,
of a
waking
story.
up the dead. So it's
Yes,
the mummy
resurrecting the dead.
does. But it goes on the weird science. It's the side between the line between science and occult.
Yeah.
It's very blurred.
And you can also connect the gangs. Some of the gangs are they were actually doing that in England, bringing corpses to the doctors.
Grave robbing.
Grave robbing, bringing corpses to doctors. But in this case, the doctors don't just want to cut them in pieces. They want to cut them in pieces and then reattach the pieces and put some electricity in them and making them walk.
Electricity.
Now, there's something else I'm going to show here, because this is a Portuguese writer called Eça de Queiroz. This book is translated into English, but it's not called Os Maias, it's called The Maias, which is completely different. But there are other books translated, namely The Mystery of the Central Road and The Relic. I would recommend, I'll put links for that below. If you find them, because these novels are set in more or less this time frame, and they are particularly interesting for this kind of spin that we are giving it, because it's wretched, and the characters are not like the usual 19th century characters. They have lovers, and they drink a lot. And
they go out with hookers.
Yeah, they go out with hookers, and though
they have affairs with they
call her something else.
They're always Spanish. That's what they call him.
They call her Spanish
because they're Spanish. But they also have they always have affair with married women most of the time.
All the time. Yeah. All married women.
And actually, on this book, there is a married woman. This is a very important lady, and she's a lesbian, and everybody knows. Mm-hmm. Well, they don't call it like that, but they say that she and her girlfriends.
Yeah, and there's also a kind of an incestuous relationship.
There is an incestuous relationship. This book is about an incest. But they don't know they are brother and sister, so there's a part.
We're
already spoiled the story. Then nobody's gonna read it. Look at the size of the book.
Probably not. It's a very big book, but you can read the rest.
Yeah, the other ones are smaller.
They are small. Yeah, not like this. Actually, not really, not as well. One of those is very small. Actually, The Mystery of the Central Road, and that one is the one I recommend. Even though I'm probably going to do something inspired by that, but you can read it if you're going to be the game master, and there's no problem about it. So why I was mentioning this, because I wanted also to put a focus on the wretchedness of the characters, obviously, because it's a wretched game, and that's not usual in 19th century games.
Normally,
everybody's
very perfect.
Yeah, well, probably because it's the British who are more famous. The British writers are more famous in this timeline. So forget Dickens. That's boring. So again, that's a police TV show, French police TV show you mentioned. This is great. Watch it.
It's really, really good.
Especially if you want to.
Can I do a spoiler and say how it starts?
Yeah.
It starts with a blowjob.
Yeah, no. And the blowjob and the death.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. The politician.
With something that actually happens.
Yeah. The most of the TV show is
based on historical events.
Not everything is historical there, but a lot of things are. Very interesting. If you are going to run this, you must watch
even if you
show.
don't go your friend.
Yeah, you watch the show anyway. It's great. It's great. What am I missing? I'm sure
that we talked so much. I think that's enough. We'll do another
video. Okay. Anyway,
everybody's already bored.
Yeah, probably. So this is about lots of things. So it's difficult to, and there is no. You can say this is about this. No, this is not about a particular thing.
It's not about romance.
No, it's not about romance. I forgot something. supernatural. There's also
yes.
supernatural.
We talked about occult, but we didn't went into the
And
supernatural.
this one was in a recent edition. Joe Coombs was writing some stuff, and I used the concept of his, which is the Beyond, which is a kind of a alternate dimension where the weird things come. So I'm not going to spoil that part. You will learn about it when you play. But anyway, you know, there's also supernatural. And if you want to, there's magic, but it's ritual magic. Anyway, there are rules. I adapted kind of the same, not exactly the same spells, but similar spells, and from OSR games, of course. For magicians, but in shamans also. But they aren't spellcasters, they are conjurers. They have to do rituals, which turns them into less powerful characters, obviously, but they can also be more active. Well, because they are also, I changed the classes so they would have more skills, for example, occult, which is a useful skill here, not just for doing rituals, but
to understand what the hell is going on.
Because if you are going to put the supernatural here, there are obviously lots of things that you have to know when you are investigating things, but you can just forget about the supernatural and concentrate on, for example, the real world occult, secret societies, and real magicians like Aleister Crowley.
Yes, parapsychology
is also mentioned because he spent, I think it was a week fucking in the Parisian hotel at this time, so it's a plot hook. There are lots of plot hooks, obviously, as usual. Some of them mention real characters like Crowley and other people. French, usually, most of them in this case. And well, you are in Paris in the 19th century, so there's lots of things to do, not just hookers, drugs, alcohol, obviously. And absence, yes, obviously. And lots of cabarets, the Moulin Rouge, the Cabaret de l'Enfer, the Cabaret du Néant, and well, I think it's fun. I think it's a fun setting. Is that enough?
Yeah, I think that's enough.
Okay.
Okay. Bye,
Bye-bye.
guys.